Americans feel like prices are rising in each and every single part of their lives.
What grade would you give the economy right now?
Oh, I would give it a D.
A lot of people think poor people are just lazy.
How the fuck's anyone supposed to get ahead anymore on $80,000 a year?
Imagine working an hour just to afford 1 pound of ground beef.
Unaffordable cost of living, unaffordable health care.
Slowly but surely gets worse while also getting more expensive.
As a matter of fact, that life does not even exist anymore.
You know, right now is the angriest Americans have ever been about the cost of living.
I just left work and now I am gonna go door dashing.
Every trip to the grocery store, every rent payment, every monthly bill say the same story. Life in America is becoming more expensive, but how is the cost of living keep ramping up lives every day? You guys let me know down below the comment. If you're new here, make sure you subscribe, comment, and hype me up, hype me up, hype me up. All right, let's check out this video.
I moved to Texas expecting to save money. Instead, I'm paying almost the same prices I was trying to escape. Rent expensive, groceries expensive, car insurance expensive, eating out expensive, but Texas still has the minimum wage of $7.25 an hour. Lawmakers keep telling everyone the economy is booming. If it's booming, why are so many people struggling just to pay basic bills? Seems like the economy is working great for corporations and billionaires, just not the people actually doing the work.
General quality of life in the United States is in rapid decline. From my perspective, it looks like it's in a free fall. I mean, people face unaffordable cost of living, unaffordable healthcare, unaffordable housing, massive wealth inequality, massive debt, chronic stress and loss of any leisure time, loss of purchasing power, unrewarding employment, stagnant wages, food insecurity, environmental devastation, and the monetization of almost every aspect of our lives to the point where just leaving the house is expensive, to say nothing of how expensive that house costs to rent. Meanwhile, our president is building a ballroom and giving billions and billions of taxpayer dollars to Israel and Argentina, while also cutting SNAP benefits. Yeah, I guess with the exception of the very privileged, life in the United States is blatantly eroding. This late stage capitalist nightmare is going to ruin us all with the exception of a handful of just the wealthy elite.
Did you know right now is the angriest Americans have ever been about the cost of living? This is a survey from the University of Michigan that has been going on since the 1940s, and it is the lowest it has ever been in the entire time that they have been doing the survey. They're going to keep telling you there's no recession. Oh, don't look, there's jobs. Trust me, just, I swear, bro, there's jobs out there. You are not alone in being pissed off. This is the most angry Americans have ever been about how much things cost. How crazy is that? Through 2008, through war after war, this is the most angry Americans have ever been about the cost of living.
How the fuck's anyone supposed to get ahead anymore on $80,000 a year? Like, you get $5.5 grand a month, $2.5 grand of that, if you're lucky, goes to your rent. Then you've got like $800 a month on food. That's being pretty fucking conservative with how the grocery bills are these days. I drive a Ford Mondeo. It's like $100 a week just on fuel just to get to work. Then you've got a few $100 on extra other costs, which literally left me with $300 a week. And houses these days are like 750 grand for some shitbox like this. And I'm supposed to save up like 50, 60, 70 grand just to be able to save up for a deposit for one of these. People these days are trying to get it into their own home. It's like you got fucked up rent, fucked up groceries, fucked up bills. It's just like, how the fuck's anyone supposed to even survive on like what used to be considered like a decent wage?
I wonder what grade you would give
A+. What grade would you give the economy right now?
Oh, I would give it a D.
A+.
Yeah, A++++++.
I think he's very out of touch.
We have record high levels of young people that are unemployed.
And I have not been able to find work since I left the military in 2022.
Being paid very low wages and can't afford life.
Katia's rent for this 300 square foot apartment is going to jump from $670 a month to just over $1,000. She says her paycheck won't cover it.
I would consider living in my car.
46% of Americans say the cost of living in the U.S. is the worst they can ever remember.
37% of people who voted for Trump in 2024 share that view.
I had to find a pantry because, food is coming up so expensive, and I got a family to take care of, man. There's too many bills coming in.
Americans feel like prices are rising in each and every single part of their lives.
Medication costs are going up as well.
We're getting prices down for this country.
The kids caught the flu, and we had to share medication because the Tamiflu was so expensive, I couldn't afford it.
The word affordability is a con job.
3/4 of Americans would scoff at that, and a majority of those polled worry it's only going to get worse.
This is my first time visiting a food bank in my entire life.
And was laid off earlier this year. Without the federal help, she says her premiums would jump to over $700 a month.
It would be more than my mortgage payment.
That takes multiple incomes to survive in this economy.
I just left work and now I am going to go door dashing.
I think that people across this country are really hungry for public servants who are laser focused on making life affordable for everyone.
My favorite part about living in the US is that everything slowly but surely gets worse while also getting more expensive, and that shit really keeps me on my toes.
A lot of people think poor people are just lazy, when you actually have to do more work and pay more for the same things as a punishment for being poor. For example, let's start with just waking up. If you work a cushy, white-collar, 9-to-5 work-from-home job, you can probably wake up at like 8:55, easily get your 8 hours of sleep, and not spend any time commuting anywhere. But if you work at a restaurant, you have to physically go there. And the restaurant is likely to be in the center of the city, where rent is expensive. So you probably have to live in the outskirts, which means you spend even more time commuting, and you have to pay for a car. But you probably can't afford the nicest car. You probably have to buy an older one, which ironically needs repairs more often, costing you more money, and has worse gas mileage, meaning you pay more for gas. You could pay for public transport, but it's very underfunded in the United States, since it's seen as something for just poor people, so it's not important. And if you do take the bus, well, it's going to be a lot slower than driving, so you pay for it with even more of your time. Time that could be spent making money or improving your situation. And the bus is more likely to be late, making you late for work. And we haven't even really started our day yet. When you get to work, you're less likely to be treated well by your boss, because your boss knows that you're in a bad spot and it's not easy for you to find another job. So if you get asked to stay late, well, it's harder for you to refuse. And if you ask for more time off, it's more likely to be refused. And if you try to, I don't know, plan your life, plan your next week to get ahead in life, well, your plans are more likely to get thrown off with random shift changes that are hard to refuse. Alright, well, it's time for lunch. The healthiest thing is probably to cook the night before and prepare it. But since you have less time for cooking, this is actually harder for you to do so than if you were working a fancy 6-figure job. Okay, so if you order food, are you having a healthy sweet green salad? Probably not. It's really expensive, like most healthier food in America. You'll probably eat off the dollar menu, which has tripled in price lately, but still. Well, it's food that's more likely to lead to health complications, especially since we don't have the best food safety regulations in America. Because, well, what a surprise, these corporations lobby against it to save them money. And they even fund scientific studies to say that their food is healthy, even though a lot of food we eat is just banned in other developed countries. So we're basically eating poison that's more likely to cause heart disease and diabetes, which is expensive, especially because we don't have free healthcare. Anyway, you come home and you also have more chores than most people, because your apartment might not even come with basic amenities like a dishwasher or in-unit laundry. So you have to spend more time going to the laundromat or washing your dishes by hand. Speaking of home, it's pretty cold these days, so you'd want to crank up the heating. But you pay more for your heating actually than other people, because you have to live in an older building that's less insulated, and more likely to be infested with roaches and rats, another stressor to your day. All of this is a realistic day. It's not taking into account all the disastrous things that could spiral out of control and create the worst days of your life. It's not taking into account the violence and crime that you could be subjected to from living in a more dangerous neighborhood, and it's not taking into account the financial spiral of, say, your car breaking down or you getting hit with a medical bill that you can't afford, which empties your bank account, meaning your bank starts charging you a maintenance fee for low balance, and overdraft fees if that happens, where now you have to pay your bills with your credit card. That has a 25% interest rate. But if you were just scraping by before, well, you definitely can't afford to pay off debt with 25% interest now. But the debt is only going to compound more and more every month, all while the rich get lower interest rates than you and even pay less tax than you. do, because they've lobbied for loopholes that let them legally evade taxes. I'm not saying that rich people didn't work hard or create genuine innovations, but the hard work they do is widely recognized by society, while these types of struggles are invisible. And this difference in perception can affect policy decisions. It excuses cutting taxes on the rich since they worked hard for their wealth, and also excuses cutting welfare for the poor since they're supposedly lazy.
I made a video saying that billionaires shouldn't exist, and somebody commented, "Oh, isn't envy one of the 7 deadly sins?" Bitch, isn't greed one of the 7 deadly sins? I'm not envious of billionaires, I'm furious at billionaires. How are you a billionaire if 25% of Americans, 86 million Americans, are living paycheck to paycheck? And some of them are even out here having to get personal loans on sites like SoFi and Credifi just to get by. And that's literally the only thing keeping them afloat. Oh, but billionaires create jobs. Yeah, they create jobs and make workers go on strike. Fucking great.
Imagine working an hour just to afford 1 pound of ground beef. For the first time in American history, a pound of ground beef costs more than the federal minimum wage. Yep, America has officially lost the plot. The federal minimum wage is $7.25 an hour. Meanwhile, ground beef can cost you anywhere between $6.50 a pound all the way up to $9 a pound. And if you want organic, baby, bring your wallet and a cosigner. I need y'all to think about how wild this is. The thing we used to call a cheap option for dinner is now competing with folks' hourly wage. And then you're constantly being gaslit by your leaders, told that the economy is doing great. For who? Because a lot of American families are working. They're doing everything they're supposed to, but they still standing in the grocery store, studying the math like they preparing for the SAT. Leaders listen to you when you struggle, because a leader will try to solve your problems. But when you're being gaslit, somehow the problem's going to always be you. You're not working hard enough. You're not budgeting enough. You're just not sacrificing enough. Meanwhile, hamburger meat got promoted, but your paycheck stayed the same. How are you guys handling these grocery prices? Because if ground beef is making more than some Americans are making per hour, we need to have a conversation, folks.
No one really talks about the level of disappointment felt as a Gen Zer to do literally everything right and still have nothing. You know, working hard, getting the degrees, following that grand life plan that the older generations told us to follow in order to achieve stability and success, and realizing that you're never gonna have that life. As a matter of fact, that life does not even exist anymore. I always grew up hearing, go to school, don't chase boys, don't get pregnant, you know, just one track mind towards your goal. And I did all of that, and I'm still here. I thought after I graduate, I'd be able to get that job, get that car, buy that house, you know, max out that 401k, have that whole white picket fence kind of dream life. That version of adulthood that made all the struggles worth it. But the reality that we're faced with is that everything is super expensive, feels super unattainable and unrealistic at this point. I'm grateful to be alive and all. Like, I know that some people definitely have it worse in life, but I always just find myself these days just like mourning the life that I thought I would have. Like, who would have literally thought that after all the struggles that I went through and all of the hoops that I had to jump through, I'll be here today working a minimum wage job, literally living paycheck to paycheck. Like, there's no money right now to my name, and even for like the basic necessities, I find myself having to like dip into things like Credifi loans, etc. Always using Klarna, Afterpay if I even want to get anything, and it just really sucks.
I'm an American. Sometimes when I imagine finally getting out of the United States, I imagine myself living in some other country where I get to have my own home and I don't have to worry about bills every day. And I imagine sitting in a chair by the window and my cat's on my lap and all my books are on the shelves by me and I have like a fireplace on and I'm just sitting there reading my books. I cannot tell you the last time I read a book. I don't know why that makes me so mad. But this idea I have of this made-up house somewhere in a different country in the future, I'm allowed to relax and read a fucking book. And my fucked up nervous system will finally allow me to do this without feeling like I'm a bad person or that I'm gonna be in trouble or that I'm gonna be poor because I'm not working hard enough. And for the first time in 10 years, I'll be able to pick one of those books off of my shelf and fucking read it from start to finish.
I can't deal with this anymore, Americans. All of these are letters from the government about various different things. And basically, they just love to charge you for nothing. Just random extra bills being added on. £36 here, £100 here. Mate, tax this, tax that, tax this. Are they going to start taxing us on the air soon? Oh, you breathe too much air tax. I can't deal with it anymore, Americans. TV tax, car tax, road tax, house tax, everything is tax. I think we should go back to the olden days where you just sort of fend for yourself. I'm going to find a bit of land in America away from everybody so that the government can't send me letters anymore. I've had enough. Can anyone else relate to this? Is anyone else sick of this rubbish? Because it's crazy out here these days.
When food prices rise and housing becomes unstable, people don't just budget, right? That's not even a word at this point. They restructure their entire lives. I have definitely changed my lifestyle because of rising costs. For housing, I have stopped trying to lock myself into this traditional lease, and I now choose to do short-term options like furnished rentals or Airbnbs. It's not really ideal, but jobs are just not secure anymore. I work in grant-funded spaces, and I'm transitioning to remote work, so flexibility feels a lot safer for me rather than a lease that I can't sustain. And honestly, renting a room where I live is expensive. Like, I literally just have a room, not the whole place to myself. I stay with the Airbnb host. Flexibility matters more to me now than ever. And then food has been another big shift. Groceries have gotten way more expensive, and so I've just simplified everything for myself. Mostly I do protein shakes, I have water, and then I just make soup for dinner. Protein shakes are cheaper, predictable, and they last a lot longer, and I'll just have one for breakfast and one for lunch. And then, like I said, I make soup for dinner because it's practical, it's actually really filling, and it keeps the cost down. These changes aren't even about luxury or optimization right now. It's literally just what I have to adapt to because of what's going on right now. This is what affordability looks like in real time.
What does poverty look like to you? Is it a boarded up house in the global north, a crowded neighborhood in the global south, or maybe a homeless encampment developing in a city with rising rents? Poverty is often shown at its extremes, but the truth is, it's more common and far less visible. It's the person working full time but still struggling to pay rent. It's the family cutting back on groceries, or the parent deciding between paying for medicine or keeping the lights on. In the US, there's a precise line for poverty set by the Department of Health and Human Services. For 2026, it's $15,960 a year for a single person, just about $1,300 a month before taxes. A family of 2 can make $21,640 a year, a family of 3 can make $27,320 a year, and a family of 4 can make $33,000 a year. These amounts don't even scratch the surface of a quality standard of living in a developed nation, especially to cover a housing expense. You're probably wondering, how does the government set these numbers? The answer goes all the way back to the 1960s. An economist named Molly Orshansky came up with a formula. Pick the cost of the bare minimum food budget and multiply it by 3. That was it. No adjustment for rent, healthcare, childcare, or transportation, just food. Adjust that number every year for inflation, and that's our official poverty threshold. This year, the Consumer Price Index indicated about a 1.98 to 2.9% inflation adjustment depending on household size. This number decides who gets access to life-changing help like Medicaid, SNAP, or affordable healthcare subsidies. If you fall just below this line, you might get support. Emphasis on might. If you barely go over, you're basically on your own, which drives individuals experiencing poverty to take jobs under the table or put themselves in harm's way to make ends meet. The gap between the official poverty line and the real cost of living means millions of Americans don't get the help that they actually need. Our cities, our policies, and the choices we make about housing and transportation, these things can either trap people in that gap or help them climb out. That's the real face of poverty in America, hidden in plain sight, shaped by choices we make individually and together.
Hello, my name is Elliot. I live in a homeless shelter and I have a goal of destigmatizing homelessness. So today I'm going to talk to you about some of the hardships of being homeless. This first one is one that people might not think of right away, but homelessness is actually a lot more expensive than you might expect. A lot of people who end up homeless will do everything possible to avoid ending up on the streets, which can mean spending an exorbitant amount of money on hotels or even Airbnbs just to stay off the street for as long as you can. A lot of homeless people also have nowhere to put their stuff after becoming unhoused and may rent a storage unit in order to store all their things. Being homeless may also cause you to invest in other things you might not have considered buying before, like a wagon to carry your things or a campfire cooking stove to cook your food while you're on the go. Also, without a kitchen, you might be reduced to eating out a lot because, let's be honest, you still need to eat, and what are raw ingredients from a grocery store going to do for you? A lot of grocery stores do sell pre-made foods, but that's still going to be more expensive and add up more in the long term than just being able to buy food that you can cook yourself. This second one might feel obvious if you have any level of empathy, but it's one thing to know about it and another thing to truly experience it, but homelessness causes a lot of shame. There's a lot of rhetoric in America about who does and doesn't deserve a home and what someone has to do to earn a home. This sense of shame can bleed into all aspects of someone's life. I can do another video sort of delving into the shame aspect of homelessness a little bit more because it really is an all-encompassing topic and is hard to cover in just a couple of seconds to minutes. The third thing I'm going to mention is that homelessness totally strips you of your sense of autonomy, which can be deeply damaging to someone's sense of self and their psyche. You lose your ability to make day-to-day decisions like, what am I going to wear today? What am I going to eat today? Who am I going to talk to today? All of those decisions are suddenly made for you out of scarcity because you only have a certain number of decisions that you can make. Even if you are someone that makes it into a program or a situation like a shelter where you can receive help, the shelter does a lot of decision making for you.
Americans are buying less groceries. Grocery product purchases were flat in 2025, then declined about 2% year over year in most months since February of 2026. That's according to a report by Nielsen IQ and Bain & Company that was shared exclusively with CNBC. This is surprising because rarely does the grocery market see full decline across the entire sector. Consumers are facing higher grocery prices and SNAP benefit changes, as well as other inflationary pressures, which is impacting the grocery industry. Years of elevated grocery prices are forcing retailers like Walmart and Kroger to spend more, keeping prices low, even as shoppers buy fewer items. Now, that combination is making it harder to turn a greater profit.
So that big grocery stock-up trip that cost you $300 in 2019, now costing you $400. Even that upper income consumer, you're talking a big enough absolute dollar change that people start to feel a little bit of that sticker shock and start to shop around more.
28% of consumers said they are actively trying to reduce how much they spend on groceries. Among those shoppers, more than half are trading down to lower price brands, including private label, and more than 40% are leaning on coupons and discounts. And as more people adopt GLP-1s, they're on average buying less groceries.
You know, as recently as almost 3 decades ago, you used to be able to buy a home, have 2 cars, a stay-at-home wife, 2 to 3 kids, a dog, hell, even a small boat, take reasonable vacations and save for retirement off of one income, one regular income, working reasonable jobs like police officers, mailmen, IT specialists, things to that extent, right? Nowadays, it's a whole different ballgame.
We are working those 9 to 5s on top of other jobs and still can't even afford healthcare, cannot afford groceries, cannot afford the 4-bedroom house that they could afford working those 9 to 5 jobs decades prior.
Now our quality of life is very diminished. We have horrific healthcare, horrific education, low quality of life, high maternal mortality rates, high child poverty. We have such a low quality of life here is because of rampant capitalism. Everything is going towards a couple people. People who hold positions of power, all they care about
Try to find the fucking truth.
be
shit that we've decided to care about versus the shit that actually fucking matters. It is worlds away.
Real world problems we have been waiting year after year after year after year for the government to even address. Not even fix it, just address it. Just let us know that we're being heard.
This evil ass energy that controls the United States is just like, everything is just constantly working against us. Yeah, it's just a rant. It's just all I had to say, I guess. I don't know.
Population collapse is coming, and we're starting to see the results of this. We're at what's called peak 18-year-old. Indeed, if you're watching this video and you're 18, I feel bad for you. And I really mean that. Why? It used to be that there were always more young people than the older generation before it because population was growing. We're now at a point where there are less young people every generation. And you know, when we had millennials, we had Gen Z, it was stable. But now with Gen Alpha, it is shrinking, and Generation Bravo is expected to be substantially less. So what they mean by peak 18-year-old, it's that there's only going to be less 18-year-olds moving forward because there are very few young people. Universities will start to go out of business. Certain stores are going to start closing, and there is going to be an economic, reckoning, we'll call it that. Because it's not as easy to just say there will be a recession. And I've talked about the economics of population collapse quite a bit. But with what we're currently seeing as it pertains to TPS expiring, Trump now having the right to remove many of these people, there's a question of what happens to an economy when you do not have the workers to expand it.
So a lot of Americans are not crazy. The United States is in a cost of living collapse. But because we're not in a GDP collapse, gross domestic product, economists keep on saying everything is fine. And that's the disconnect. GDP measures how well corporations and the wealthy are doing, not how well the average American is doing. Right now, over 8.2 million people are unemployed, more than the population of New York City. And 5 million are so burnt out, they've stopped even looking for work. Manufacturing is still declining. Retail is cutting hours to avoid paying benefits. Workers are exhausted while corporations hit record productivity, and workers see none of it. Inflation has slowed, but prices never dropped. Food is up 19% since 2021. The average rent is over $2,000. Your rent payment now looks like a mortgage, and your grocery bill looks like rent. This isn't prosperity, it's suffocation. We're in a polycrisis where you have unaffordable housing, burnout, stagnant wages, automation, political dysfunction, and climate change all hitting at once. And none of that shows up on GDP. So no, you're not imagining it. The United States looks stable on paper, but it feels unstable in real life because the system measures corporate health, not human well-being.
If you're a United States citizen under 40, you're nowhere near pissed off enough about the cost of affordability crisis in this country. Now, granted, there's a lot of things to be furious about with this crumbling nation right now, and I'll make some more videos later in the week detailing different sections and realities of how the government and country are collapsing in real time. But for this particular video, I just want to focus on the cost of living crisis, right? And it's quite literally any possible avenue you could explore. Let's start with the main one, housing, right? Everyone needs a place to fucking live, to go to sleep at night. Well, first of all, the homelessness crisis is just outrageous because people can't afford rent, right? The amount of people that are on the street or living in their fucking cars who have jobs, who are working full time and still cannot afford to get in a house because shit does not pay enough and the cost of housing just to rent is completely outrageous. And again, if you go back just 20, 30 years, this was not the case. Housing was affordable. Renting was much less than paying a mortgage. Now, there's a lot of cases right now where young people, if you're 40 and under, their rent in an apartment is significantly more than a 60-year-old's mortgage in a fucking 2,000 square foot house. How fucking ass backwards is that? If you're under 40, your parents and grandparents could afford to have second families, brother. They were buying gifts for the mistress's kids. You know what I'm saying? I'm 28. I can't even afford a family myself right now, much less barely myself alone as a solo individual. Right?
People below 40 right now, it's a struggle to pay rent and keep up with all the other bills. And you just go down the line and you look at other aspects of life that cost money, which is fucking everything, by the way. It costs money to goddamn breathe. Insurance, right? Health insurance. Every other developed nation has it. We don't have it. It's super expensive. There's a lot of people in the United States that don't even have health insurance because A, they're either unemployed because we tie employment to health insurance in this country because that makes fucking sense. They're either unemployed so they don't have it, or they're employed and they choose not to pay into it because it's so fucking expensive. Or you might have it and go to the doctor, but because it's still such a scam, whatever procedure or medicine you might need, it might be still outrageously expensive. Because health insurance in the United States is a fucking scam. And that's not to even mention the other types of insurance, such as property insurance or fucking car insurance or whatever the fuck else types of insurance exist. They're all scams and they're all outrageously priced. Cars. People can't even buy their own cars. The used car market is so fucking outrageous right now. It's a complete joke. It's a complete joke. The price of cars, the price of anything automobile related. If you want 4 brand new tires that are average to maybe a step above average, you're looking at $1,000, dude. $1,000 fucking dollars for 4 new tires on your car or truck. What the fuck? What the fuck? Every single, and I haven't even gotten to food and groceries yet, right? If you go to the grocery store, you buy yourself 5-6 days worth of shit. Healthy shit, no processed foods, maybe a couple snacks included, meals 5 nights a week. You're looking at like $150 to $200, right? This was not always the case. In fact, most of this country's history, most shit was super affordable. People didn't used to make a lot of money, but shit was cheap. People still don't make a lot of money now, but the problem is everything else just continues to skyrocket year after year, and we just fucking sit here and take it in the ass and do nothing about it. It's crazy. It's obviously not sustainable, and we are very close to the full-on powder keg, massive explosion moment, right? It's just so funny because, like, if you're a member of the ruling class, right? If you're a member of the bourgeoisie, this was so avoidable to not get to this point. Like, the United States is the richest nation in the world. They could keep costs down for anything if they wanted to. But no, the top 1% just had to get richer and richer and richer, and they needed a 6th property on the beach in Florida, right? Because 5 wasn't enough. So yeah, we are not even close to pissed off enough about how much average shit costs nowadays. It's unbelievable. And yes, obviously people need to make more money too. Part of the problem is wages have stagnated for decades now at this point. That is also an issue. But I think the bigger issue is that the price of everything continues to climb for no good reason. You're not getting better quality either. Things are shittier than they've ever been, right? It's not like everything across the board is now a luxury item. No, it's just pure greed. It's just pure greed. That's it.